Welcome, Bronco Nation, to my game preview for Boise State versus San Diego State. This is a major matchup for both programs. A win by Boise State in this game, coupled with a loss by loss by Air Force to UNLV, would put Boise State into the Mountain West Championship game. San Diego State, on the other hand, a loss to Boise State and a win by Fresno State would put San Diego State out and Fresno State into the Mountain West Championship game. So San Diego State really, everything is on the line for San Diego State in this one, and everything could be on the line for Boise State. But San Diego State has got to get a win in this game if they want to make sure that they can get into that Mountain West Championship game. So this is a major matchup for both teams. It is a rivalry game. It is a recent, fresh, new rivalry. These teams have only met 6 times so far, but it is definitely, I would say, in the mindset of both fan bases, it is definitely a rivalry game. San Diego State, we'll get to that series history here in a bit. Of course, as always with these videos, I'm going to go through the series history. I'm going to go through the key players for both teams. I'm going to go through my 3 keys to the game for Boise State. I'm going to give you some analysis of both programs and my score prediction at the end. But I will give a little bit of preempt that by saying that San Diego State is the only team to have a tied series history with Boise State. Every other Mountain West team, only team in the Mountain West have a tied series history with Boise State. Every other team, Boise State owns the series history, where the Aztecs have won 3 out of the 6 matchups, and Boise State and San Diego State have tied 3-3. So this is an early game, a early Mountain West game at least. If you're on the East Coast, it's not too bad with that noon time slot. But if you are on the Mountain West Coast, or Mountain Coast, sorry, West Coast, there you go. I'm doing this video very late, as you might be able to tell. Anyhow, if you're in the Mountain Time Zone, it is a 10 a.m. Kickoff for you, but it is on CBS, so trade off the early time slot for a major network. Boise State has not traditionally done well in those early time slots versus the late ones, but this new head coaching staff has taken a lot of big steps forward, and the next big step here is to prove that Boise State can win any time and anywhere. All right, so Boise State versus San Diego State, 10 a.m. Mountain Time on CBS. Boise State is favored in this one. Despite the fact that Aztecs are ranked 21 in the CFP poll, dropped back 2 slots after winning, but struggling against UNLV. They are now back to number 21, so 2 slots back there, but they're sitting here at 10-1, ready to finish the season strong. Boise State favored, though, 61.4% chance of winning, and favored by 2.5 points by Vegas. So, like I said at the beginning, a lot riding for both these teams. Let's look at the series history. So like I said, 3-3. The first time that Boise State played San Diego State was in 2011. Kellen Moore came in to San Diego State, absolutely demolished them, crushed them 52-35. San Diego State had a little bit of a late rally there, but Boise State owned that game. But it has not been that way since. San Diego State then won the next 2 games. And then Boise State managed to win the next 2 games after that. And then in 2018, on the blue, really midway through the season, Boise State ended up dropping 13-19 versus San Diego State. A very disappointing game there. So Boise State hoping to go in to San Diego State and do the same thing. Go in and beat a ranked San Diego State team who has eyes on a Mountain West Championship. Be the season spoilers. I said at the beginning of the season when things weren't going well, when Boise State was sitting there at 2-3, that there's still a lot of things that Boise State can look forward to and do this season. I said first off, Mountain West Championship game is not out of the picture for Boise State. We have the revenge tour, but we're also the spoilers this season. Boise State has been that spoiling team. They went in, they beat BYU, totally spoiled their season. If they didn't have that loss to Boise State, they might be looking at potentially being a team that was in the CFP College Football Playoffs, but they're not. Lost to Boise State. Fresno State derailed their season there, took them out of the higher rankings, and now they're waiting, hoping for Boise State to beat San Diego State for them to be able to go to the Mountain West Championship game. And then San Diego State, of course, set for the Mountain West Championship game. Boise State can spoil their season as well. This is the season for spoilers. Hopefully Boise can come in and get this spoiling win. All right, so key players. And from the key players I did for this game, and in general I've kind of done key players as in best players for these teams overall. Well, in this game I'm specifically focusing on the key players that are going to need to be relied on to get the win in this matchup. So for Boise State, the 3 key players who are going to make, I think, the biggest impact on a win for Boise State are going to be George Holani, the running back. Only 499 yards and a touchdown this season, but he's been injured. The last 3 games, he has been 100%, and he has been on fire. 3 straight games of 100+ yards, averaging over 5 yards per carry right now. Boise State is going to want to definitely use his receiving and running ability. His performance in this matchup is going to be a huge determiner for whether or not Boise State's able to go and get this win. Second player here, and this is no surprise, is Khalil Shakir, over 1,000 yards, past the 1,000-yard mark in the senior night last week against New Mexico. Great game for him. 1,043 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. The last 4 games, he has touched the ball a lot. 9 catches, or 9 receptions, 7 receptions, 8 receptions in the last 3 games there. Prior to that, he had gone the previous 5 games. Previous 4 games. So prior to this last 3 games where he has really turned on the Jets, and Boise State's gone on this 4-game winning streak. So 9 receptions, 7, 8, and 8 receptions there. Previous to that, he had gone the previous 4 games with less than 4 receptions in each of those matchups. So when Khalil Shakir is touching the ball, Boise State is winning. Boise State needs to make sure that they are making him a #1 priority target, drawing focus for the defense so that the other receivers can open up and get opportunities as well. And finally is going to be Jonah Dalmes, totally snubbed on the just drawing a brain blank right here. I think it's called the Gonzaga, the kicking award. Anyhow, totally snubbed on the National Kicking Award here as far as the top 3. Just absolutely despicable for one of the best kickers in the nation. 25 out of 27 this season. One of those was a block, so that's not entirely on him. So one of those was a block, and then one of those was missed from 50+. But between kicks from 30 to 49 yards, he is 15 out of 15, and he currently has tied the Boise State record, single season record, for kicks in a row with 17 kicks in a row made. So if he makes a kick today, Saturday, if he makes a kick Saturday, without missing one first, but if he makes a kick tomorrow on Saturday, he will have the single season record for most kicks there in a row. It's going to be a big part of this Boise State team that has struggled once they've got into the red zone. And when you play a team like San Diego State, or a team that is playing at San Diego State's level, the special teams become the determiner for the team. Special teams become the thing that puts you over the edge. That gets you that little extra bump to go out and get that win, because these matchups are going to be close. This matchup is going to be close, and when you're playing great teams like this, it is going to be close. And your special teams and the ability to have a great field goal kicker is the difference in these games. And Boise State, in past seasons, not recently, because they had sacks and they had Dalmas, so great kickers back-to-back, but Boise State in their history has struggled at that kicking position. Having those kickers that are able to make those quintessential, most important game-time, game-determining kicks, and especially in the last 10 years has really struggled at that position. Overall, there's been some really good ones there, but there overall has been a struggling issue. So the fact that Boise State has such a great kicker in Dalmas, who can be a game determiner, who cannot be iced, he is Iceman. You cannot ice Jonah Dalmes. As much as you try, Craig Ball tried to ice him 3 timeouts in a row at the end of the first half, and he still made the long field goal. So you cannot ice Jonah Dalmes. He is going to make those kicks. He is going to be a big difference maker for Boise State. Keep them in this game and push them potentially over the top if Boise State can get out a win in this. All right, so talking about San Diego State here. Well, their top players are the ones that are going to be most important for them trying to get a win in this one. It's going to be the Nebraska transfer, or former Nebraska transfer, Greg Bell. He transferred in 2018, or he played at the end of the 2018 season, so this is the first time facing the Broncos. He was not part of that squad that beat Boise State at home. So Greg Bell has been really the heart and soul of this offense. 907 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns, 4.7 yard per carry average. He's going to be a big difference maker for San Diego State. Boise State has got to be able to stop and shut down the run. That'll be something we talk about later. But Greg Bell here is going to make that very, very difficult. As far as the receiving corps, San Diego State's got a couple of receivers here that they really target. And Daniel Bellinger here, the tight end, isn't necessarily their #1 target. He's their #2 target. There is a receiver out there who has 30 receptions for San Diego State, but he is definitely one of their biggest, I believe, their biggest target here. 6'6". This guy is a monster. He is 6'6", and wait for it, he's 255 pounds. I mean, this is the equivalent of throwing out to a bus in the end zone. He is massive. It reminds me a lot of Trey McBride for Colorado State. So 26 receptions for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns. He is going to be a major target. And early on, Boise State kind of figured out McBride towards the end of the Colorado State game, or about the halfway point. But early on, Boise State really struggled to cover that tall defender there, especially with Skinner going out with targeting, right? Was that the Colorado State? I just remember Skinner going out, not being able to be the defender on that. Anyhow, Jalen Skinner's probably going to be matched up on him, tall defender versus tall receiver in this offensive scheme and defensive schemes. So Boise State definitely going to need to find a way to shut down this receiving target, because 6'6", 255 is massive, and he is one of their number one targets for San Diego State. So if they can shut down the run and force him there, they're probably looking Bellinger's way. That's going to be a big issue for Boise State with such a tall receiver here who's made such a major impact for the Aztecs. All right, and then we talked about a special teams player for Boise State, in kicker in Jonah Dalmas. Well, let's talk about a special teams player for San Diego State who's going to be making a major impact. That's going to be the punter, Matt. Oh, man, I'm really bad with these names. Let me try again. Ariza, I think his name's Ariza is how you say it. San Diego State fans, you can correct me. But anyhow, Matt, we'll go by Matt. That's easy to pronounce. So, punter, Matt, he's a junior, but he is number one in the nation for both punting average. Averages 51.8 yards per punt, and in long. So, he has a long this year of 86 yards. So he has the longest punt in the nation this season, and also tied for the average. He has 67 punts, so a lot of drives coming up short. That could be work in Boise State's favor, but when a drive does come up short for the Aztecs, do they get that ball away? It doesn't matter where they are on the field, they're going to be able to flip that field position away. So Boise State, we're going to talk about here in the keys to the game here. But that's going to be a major issue for Boise State, is even when they can stop the Aztecs, they're still going to be buried deep in their side of the field with a punter this good. All right, so how is Boise State going to adapt to this very, very dangerous team? A 10-1 team, only lost to Fresno State, ranked number 21 in the nation, a good running back. I didn't even talk about their quarterback, but a pretty good quarterback. That's not their number one offensive focus, but a pretty good quarterback here. Great special teams. How does Boise State adjust to this? Well, the first key here is to force turnovers. Boise State this season has been a turnover machine. 13 interceptions and 9 fumble returns. I haven't done the math and looked up, or not the math, but gone through every single season and seen how many turnovers Boise State caused every season. I'm going to do that towards the end of the year. But I did midway through, and Boise State was on track to surpass their all-time record for turnovers. And they are close right now. I know that they're close. I just don't know if they've passed it. They are, though, however, leaps and bounds ahead of last season. Last season, Boise State had only 3 interceptions all year and no forced fumbles. 9 fumble recoveries this season and 13 interceptions, and no fumble recoveries last season and only 3 interceptions. So that is an amazing turnovers, yes, but amazing turnaround for this Boise State defense. The same players, pretty much the same players across the board, but a new coaching staff comes with a new mindset, a new energy, completely changes the focus of this team and turns them into a turnover machine with basically the same players from last season. That is why I say that Boise State is in good hands going forward into the future. That and a lot of other reasons is the reason I say that in a couple of years, maybe even next season, Boise State's going to be back to the level of being the top group of 5 and one of the top teams in the country because of that impressive defensive turnaround. So, forcing turnovers. Why is that so key? Well, it's so key because we talked about here when Boise State stops them, when Boise State stops San Diego State, if their punter is able to get that ball off, you're talking about the offense having to drive the full field. Boise State is going to need some momentum-shifting plays here, especially if their offense gets off to a slow start, which Boise State is seeing a lot of slow starts out of this offense. So especially if the offense gets out to a slow start, a defensive turnover battle here, or defense being able to force a turnover in defensive battle, can definitely spark this team and get this offense going. So Boise State, if they want to get some short fields, they're probably going to have to be forcing some turnovers because, like I said, if that punt gets away, San Diego State is flipping this field pretty much wherever they are on it. So forcing those turnovers. San Diego State not exactly turnover prone. 5 interceptions this season. Like I said, the air game is not their number one weapon, but they do use the passing attack, and they have thrown 5 picks and only 7 fumbles. So 7 fumbles is a lot, I guess, but it's in the grand scheme of things, it's only 12 turnovers on the season. It's not great, but it's not terrible. But Boise State is a turnover machine on defense. The great thing about this defense here is that they are not just a turnover machine. They were that early in the season, kind of that focus, and they'd give up big yards, they give up big plays, especially on the ground, but at least they get the turnovers. Well, now, somehow, towards the end of the season here, they have become one of the most impressive defenses that I've seen for a Boise State unit this last few games. And Boise State overall, this is the most miraculous defensive turnaround I've ever seen. The last 4 games, Boise State has only allowed teams to convert 15 out of 52 third down conversions. That's it. 15 out of 52 third down conversions in 4 games. Boise State has had the turnaround from a defense that was the biggest weak spot for the team to being one of their greatest strengths is mind-boggling. I have no idea. I really have. It's miraculous. It's genius is what it shows, the true genius of this coaching staff, that they were able to do that. I said from the very beginning when they were hiring coaches, I said my dream coach, I think every fan's dream coach, and a lot of NFL teams' dream coach right now is Kellen Moore. It always is. Boise State is, greatest player to ever come through for Boise State and always will be. So that was the dream coach. But I said if Boise State was unable to or wasn't, if it didn't work out with Kellen Moore coming to Boise State for whatever reasons, then Boise State needed to get a defensive-minded guy, and Andy Avalos is the best hire. I said that then, and it's proving me right that he was the best hire for Boise State because their defense is the thing that has had the most issues. Boise State has not had defenses that they can build a team around for at least since 2015. They have not had a defense that they can build a program around. Not, when you look at those teams, those 2009, those 2010 Boise State teams that were perennially ranked in the top 10, they weren't just there because they had great offenses, and they did, but they were ranked there because they had amazing defenses that even when the offense was struggling, was still able to go out there and win the big games. So Boise State, that's what you need to do to develop a top-tier program, is a top-tier defense. And somehow Boise State's taken a defense that was one of the worst defenses I've ever seen for Boise State last year and turned them into one of the best Boise State defenses I've ever seen. And that is just incredible. I know I went on a little rabbit trail on this key, and it's not necessarily all related to this key here, but forcing turnovers is going to be huge for Boise State. Couple that with an incredible defense who is doing a great job of stopping the ball through the air and on the ground. Again, surprised for the fact that Boise State gave up so many yards on the ground, and now they've been great against it recently. So a team that is stopping the offense on the ground and through the air, couple that with some great turnovers, Boise State has a great chance of winning this game if they can force those turnovers. All right, second here is going to be focus on the blocked punt. Boise State got through New Mexico twice last week. They haven't been a punt blocking team this season, really, but they went through and got those 2 blocked punts against New Mexico. That's going to be the key here against San Diego State. You're not going to be able to return a lot of punts here unless he outkicks the coverage unit. With a punt this long and a punter this good, you're not going to be able to get some great. You're not going to be able to work that to your advantage by letting the punt get off. But Boise State, if they can't force a turnover and it does come to a punting situation, they should be selling out every single time to try and get after that punter, make him a little uncomfortable, and try and block those punts. Obviously, you don't want to foul and give up your first down if you've been able to get the stop. But Boise State's going to be in a much better position if they can block those punts. Like I said, 2 blocked punts versus New Mexico. They've shown they can do it. They have some speedy guys out there, some really speedy guys there on defense. And 2 different players blocked punts. Tubner and Canillo both blocked punts last week. So Boise State definitely has a scheme for it. They're showing that they have the special teams coordination, the special teams coaching to be able to go out, find the weaknesses, highlight them, and get the job done. Both the 2 punts were blocked in 2 different ways. One was blocked from Canillo coming from the outside on the left side of the punt block, or from the defense's view, the left side of the what are they called, special protectors, the punt line there, the three personal defenders there. I think they're called personal defenders. Anyhow, coming from the left side and blocking it, and then the second punt was going straight through the personal defenders by Tubner coming straight through them in a gap where they overload them, force the two guys to pick defending three different players, pick the wrong two, and Tubner was able to get through and block the punch. So Boise State has shown incredible intelligence in the special teams coordination to be able to go out and get it. Then shown the abilities, the raw talent on the players on the field to be able to get those punts. Boise State has that ability, and they need to be using it to their maximum extent here against San Diego State, because if that punt gets away, it's going to be traveling a long time before it comes down, and whoever's returning it, Khalil Shakir usually, is going to have a hard time getting these punts into a spot on the field that's good for Boise State. All right, so third key here is focus on the passing game early. Yes, Helani is back. He's doing great. He's going to be a strength for Boise State, but Boise State they're going to be playing to their advantage if they lean on the passing game. For the first reason here is that San Diego State is great against the run. They allow only 77.5 yards per rushing this season. That's the average per game, 77.5 yards per rush. However, through the air, they have been porous. They've allowed over 236.4 or over 236 yards per game through the air. So there are opportunities and openings in the air against San Diego State. The other reason here is that Boise State versus New Mexico, and I figured this is what he was doing, and then Tim Plow clarified it in his post-game press conferences, that against New Mexico, Boise State didn't go to the air that often. They realized that New Mexico wasn't really going to score. They wanted to keep their playbook hidden, so they were really leaning on that ground game, and it wasn't their typical offense that they were running against New Mexico. So Boise State, while that's great to keep some plays hidden there, it does mean that you're going to be coming into this a little rusty, because you've been running, you weren't running your full offense the game before. So it's really been 2 weeks since you've run your full offense in game mode. And so it's going to take Boise State a little bit of time to get back into the rhythm of things in this one. They're not, it's not like you're a season off and you're coming off of a long off season and it's your first game. It's not that rusty, but Boise State's going to have to knock off a little bit of rust in this one to get up to the same proficiency that they were showing earlier, or they have been showing toward late in the season, running this full offense like we saw against Fresno State. So Boise State is going to go to the passing game early, get Bachmeier warmed up, get him into the flow with his receivers, short passes, medium range passes, dump off passes to the back, get him used to getting that ball out of his hands quickly and into the hands of his receivers, seeing those catches, building up his confidence, get him back into the flow of things, because he's going to be out of it after that New Mexico game. And like I said, it's also running to the strength of this offense. This offense has this season been a good passing team. For the most part, has been a good passing team. The offensive line is still porous. George Helani is doing an amazing job of avoiding defenders in the backfield and breaking, 1, 2, 3 tackles in the backfield and turning it into 10, 20-yard gains. But the fact is he's still having to break tackles in the backfield, and he's coming up against a very good run defense. So the running game is improving because Helani is healthy, not because the offensive line is that much better. Now, the new formation in the offensive line that they have working right now, and they did lose a key member of that offensive line for the rest of the season. Maybe it'd be back to the bowl game, but not for this one. But the offensive line scheme that they have right now is working better than the ones early in the season, but it's still not a great offensive line. It's still an offensive line that's going to be struggling in that running game. So forcing the defenders back from the line of scrimmage, especially against a good run defense like San Diego State, is going to open up opportunities for Helani, take some pressure off of that struggling offensive line for Boise State. And the final thing that's going to do is it's going to force creativity. When you're by Tim Plow, when you're having to go to the air, you can't run the same plays over and over and over again. You have to be mixing it up. It forces you to think on your feet, to think on your toes, to switch over into that creative mindset. And that's what Boise State needs to win this game. They have to open up the entire playbook. They have to be creative in the run game. They have, wildcat snaps, wide receiver jet sweeps, trick plays, whatever, you name it. Boise State has got to be opening up that entire full playbook in this one, and forcing Boise State forcing itself to go through and go into the air early in this one will get Tim Plow into the right mindset to call the plays in a way that's going to get Boise State this win, versus becoming too conservative or too predictable, which really has been Boise State's greatest weakness. Tim Plow has the abilities. He has the raw talent. The plays that he draws up are brilliant. It's just that he doesn't he is still adapting to this FBS level and finding out, what you need to do to keep your drives in rhythm. And when you're running up tempo, when you're running these creative plays, and then you run three runs up the middle, that's not what you want to be doing. That kills your drive. That takes all of the momentum, all the rhythm that you have, and just completely squanders it. So forcing yourself into the air early in this one is going to force Tim Plow to be more creative. It's going to force him into those creative portions of his playbook, and I think it's going to change that mindset, put him in the right mindset to call the game that's going to get Boise State the win in this one versus leaving with some great moments but a disappointing overall performance. All right, so 3 keys to the game here: force the turnovers, focus on the blocks, and focus on the passing game early. Okay, so just kind of overall summary here. Like I said, San Diego State, their strength for their offense is the run game. 183.1 yards per game on the ground. Passing game is there, but not necessarily their focus. 145.5 yards per game through the air. As far as the defense goes, porous in the secondary, 236.4 yards per game. But very strong against the run, 77.5 yards per game. So Boise State, like I said, is going to want to push that passing game, push where San Diego State is weak, open up opportunities for the running game underneath. On the other end, if Boise State can shut down the run, which is going to be a big issue against San Diego State with a great team and a good running back, if they can shut down that run, the passing game is not their strong point. They have some height, obviously, here with Bellinger and some other good receivers. They have the ability to throw the ball, but that is not their strong point. Under 2,000 yards passing for their quarterback, they changed quarterbacks on me, or they didn't change quarterbacks, but they have 2 quarterbacks there who have thrown the ball for them this season. One was over 400 yards, and I think the other one was 800 yards. But I think his name is Johnson. Lucas Johnson is their quarterback. So anyhow, He's able to get the ball out, but under 2,000 yards passing hasn't been their focus. So Boise State can force that running game to a standstill, hold that running game down in the trenches, bog them down in the trenches, and force them to the air, where Boise State has been great at forcing turnovers, especially against a quarterback who's not used to airing it out every play. So Boise State has been good, though, against the run game recently, and that is a great sign for Boise State. The last 4 games of the season, they have held every single team they've played the last 4 games here of the season to under their season average in yards per game. So Boise State, a team that struggled early in the season in the run game, it's been one of their strengths. The defensive line has completely stepped up their game here towards the second half of the season. 2 of those teams, they held to under 100 yards. And when you hear the teams that it is, it's very impressive, because the first team that they held to under 100 yards on the ground was Fresno State, a team with 2 good running backs. They held them to under 100 yards on the ground. Second team was New Mexico, which is shocking because New Mexico was running the option. That's all their offense was on the ground. And Boise State held their entire rushing game to under 100 yards. I think it was like 86 or something like that yards per game, yards on the ground. So Boise State has completely turned things around at the right time, coming into the end of the season hot, ready. They've prepared themselves all season. Each game has been a developing point, a learning moment for Boise State as they have continued to improve. And now they're coming in at their peak performance against a team that is probably going to test them. Besides Air Force, this might be one of the toughest running offenses that Boise State faces this season. So if they can shut down that run game, it is going to make things very difficult to near impossible for San Diego State to be able to pull off any kind of win in this game. So what does Boise State need to do to win this? They need to do exactly what they did against Fresno State. They need to come out all in, put everything on the line. Andy Avalos and his team, Andy Avalos coached this team, and the team played like that was the only game they were playing this season. It was all there, and because Andy Avalos knows the importance of that rivalry game, and that Boise State caught its fire in that matchup. It completely changed the storyline of the season to go out and get that major upset. Boise State has another chance to do that here, to finish the season the right way. You know, the bowl game, the Mountain West Championship game, all that will take care of itself. But Boise State right now just needs to get to that 8-4 record, 3 top 25 wins, beating their rivals, beating Mountain West foes. That's what's important for this program as they attempt to reestablish themselves and set themselves back off on a footing, be the top team in their conference, in the group of 5, and one of the top teams in the nation overall. So they need to come in, put it all on the line, be aggressive. I mean, that defense was incredibly aggressive versus New Mexico, and the whole team overall was one of the most aggressive performances I've seen all season against Fresno State. They can do that again against this second team, this another major ranked team out of California that they have to play. Creativity, I've already talked about it offensive-wise. So be all in, everything on the line, be aggressive, creativity, open up the entire playbook, and then be defensively dominant. That's what got Boise State the win against Fresno State. They can do those same things here against San Diego State, coming in with all the momentum into this one. So finishing the right way, that's what Boise State's focused on this season. Everything that Boise State does is about that blue-collar work ethic where you come in every single day, every single game. It doesn't matter what's happened the day before. It doesn't matter what's going on in the future. You are focused on the here and the now and playing with everything that you have, pouring every last ounce into that matchup like it's the only one that counts. And coming down towards the last game of the season, this being the last final game of the season, that could never have been more true. I mean, Boise State was playing in their last games here, the last 5 games on the stretch, has been playing, or the last 4 games on the stretch here, has been playing like every game is the last game. Well, this is the last game, the last regular season game. So Boise State has been acting that way, and now imagine how much stronger they're going to come into this one with the fact that that is the last game. So they're not just acting like they're pouring everything into it, because they are, because this is the last matchup of the season. Finish that season strong so that Boise State can come into next season, can finish the season the right way, get Andy Avalos that at minimum 8-win season, 8-4 here, put Boise State in position to potentially go to that Mountain West Championship game, get them to a good bowl game, and then push Boise State into next season where they can be a team that's looked at from the get-go as one of the top group of 5 contenders, which is way you finish the season determines on where you start the season, and how you start the season determines on what your ceiling is at the end of the season. It's a continual loop, and Boise State needs to set that. Right now, they're not just playing for this year, for this game and this year. I mean, obviously take care of business one game at a time, but they're not just playing for this game. They're playing for next year. So Boise State needs to finish this season strong and get this win. So what am I predicting this one? Boise State, I think, is going to have a good defensive performance. I think the running game, I think they might take a little step back against such an aggressive running team, but I think they will hold San Diego State to under their rushing average. I think they're going to be good overall against the run, give up some big plays. I think they're going to get a couple of turnovers, at least either interceptions or forced fumbles. And I think Boise State offensively struggle early to get started like they have all season, but eventually defense is going to keep them in the game long enough to get their spark. And down the stretch here, I think Boise State is going to get a big win against San Diego State. I'm calling a Boise State 34, San Diego State 19. So 34-19, that's my final score prediction. Thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. If you are not a member, make sure you join Bronco Nation Updates on Facebook. And I will also be coming out with a top 10. I'm making it right after this video. Top 10 games of the week video. Boise State is in that. Minor focus on them. Just got to preview all the top 10 matchups of this final week of the season, this rivalry week. A lot of rivalry games, the Apple Bowl, the Iron Bowl, the Palmetto Bowl, all the bowls. So it's bowl season starting already. All the end of the regular season here. So make sure you watch that video as well. It's going to be a good preview of the games to watch after you've watched Boise State on Friday. Everything else to watch for the entire weekend. So like I said, thank you for watching this video. And as always, go Big Blue!